Every day you meet people who smile at you. They shake your hand. They say the right words, wear the right clothes, and act exactly as society expects them to. But behind every polite smile, behind every carefully rehearsed word, there's another face, one that almost no one ever sees. Carl Jung called it the persona, the mask we wear to survive the world. And he warned, the persona is what we would like to be and what we pretend to be. You think you know people, your friends, your co-workers, even the ones closest to you. But what if I told you you've never actually met them? You've only met their persona, their mask. That's why Jung said, if you truly want to know someone's real character, don't look at who they are when everything is going well. Look at who they become when the mask begins to crack. Because the truth of a person doesn't reveal itself in their best moments, but in their most unguarded ones. Watch how they treat the powerless and how they behave when they have power. Those two moments, when they are weak and when they are strong, are the only mirrors that reflect who they truly are. And that's where Jung's greatest insight begins. Deep dive, understanding the persona. In Jungian psychology, the persona isn't evil, it's necessary. It's the face you put on for the world, your social mask. Without it, you couldn't function in society. We all need it to navigate relationships, work, and expectations. But here's the danger. The more attached you become to your mask, the more disconnected you become from your real self. People often confuse their persona with their identity. They start believing their own performance. They live not to be authentic, but to be accepted. They smile when they're broken. They agree when they disagree. They pretend to be kind when, deep down, they feel resentment. And over time, the mask grows so thick that even they forget what lies beneath it. Real-life connection. You've probably met someone like this. The person who's always charming, always nice. But somehow, something feels off, like their words and energy don't match. You can't explain it, but your intuition whispers, this isn't real. That's your subconscious recognizing the mask. Because Jung believed the unconscious mind can sense authenticity. Your deeper instincts always know when something's false, even if your rational mind can't see it. Psychological insight. Jung discovered that the persona is just one part of the psyche. Behind it lies the shadow, the repressed self, the collection of instincts, emotions, and impulses we hide from others and from ourselves. When the persona grows too perfect, the shadow becomes more dangerous. That's why you often see kind, gentle people suddenly explode in anger, or honest individuals caught in lies. Their shadow bursts through the cracks of their mask. That moment, the eruption, is when the truth appears. And Jung realized, if you pay close attention, you can spot those cracks early. Because no one can hold the mask forever. Transformation or realization. So how do you truly see someone's real character? You don't look at their words. You watch their contradictions. How do they act when they don't get what they want? How do they treat those they don't need? How do they behave when no one's watching? Jung would say, observe people when they think the world isn't judging them. That's when their unconscious takes the stage. If their kindness disappears when the spotlight fades, that kindness was never real. If their respect ends when you disagree with them, it was never respect, only control disguised as virtue. True character doesn't need applause. It exists quietly, even in the dark. Cinematic reflection. Closing quote. Carl Jung believed that every human being is a blend of masks and truths, light and shadow, good and evil. And to see someone's real nature, you must look not at what they show, but at what they hide. Because in the end, the meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. To truly know someone, watch not how they appear, but how they transform in the face of truth. There is a test, quiet, invisible, and absolute, that reveals the truth of a person's soul. It's not found in their achievements, their charm, or their words. It's found in how they treat someone who can do nothing for them. Carl Jung understood this long before modern psychology caught up. He believed that the true character of a person emerges not when they stand before equals, but when they hold power, even a little, over someone else. Because power is the great revealer. It strips away the persona. It exposes what's underneath the smile. When someone believes they have control over a waiter, a stranger, a child, an employee, that's when their unconscious comes to life. Their mask loosens. Their true self speaks. Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." And power is the perfect moment when the unconscious directs behavior. It doesn't lie. It doesn't perform. It simply acts. That's why the smallest, simplest moments, the tone someone uses with a cashier, the way they speak to a cleaner, how they react to someone who has nothing to offer them, those are the moments when their soul is naked. Real-life connection. Think back to a time when you saw this truth for yourself. Maybe you were standing beside someone important, a boss, a leader, a good person, and then you watched them humiliate someone beneath them. You felt a quiet shock, like the ground beneath you shifted. That's the moment the mask slipped. The persona vanished, and the shadow took the stage. Because Jung knew that cruelty doesn't begin with hate. It begins with denial. A person denies their own weakness, their own fear, and instead projects it onto others. They see in the powerless what they cannot face in themselves. Psychological insight. In Jungian terms, this is called projection. When we refuse to acknowledge our own flaws or insecurities, we unconsciously cast them onto other people. The arrogant man despises arrogance in others. The controlling person accuses others of manipulation. The insecure woman judges those who crave attention. And when such a person gains power, the projection grows stronger. They punish in others what they secretly fear in themselves. That's why Jung said, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves." If you want to see someone's true character, watch how they handle that irritation. Do they use it to understand themselves? Or do they use it to dominate others? There's a story Jung often used to illustrate this. He spoke of a man who considered himself deeply spiritual, calm, moral, and enlightened. But one evening, his servant dropped a plate during dinner. In an instant, the man erupted, his face red with rage, his voice trembling with contempt. Afterward, the man sat in silence, ashamed and confused. He asked Jung, "Why did I become that person? That wasn't me." Jung looked at him calmly and replied, "That was you. It was the part you've refused to see." The servant didn't awaken the man's darkness. He simply revealed it. That's the power of the powerless. They become mirrors for the parts of ourselves we work hardest to hide. Deep psychological truth. Jung believed that the way we treat others is a direct reflection of our relationship with our own unconscious. When someone is cruel, it's because they're at war within themselves. When someone is compassionate, it's because they've made peace with their own shadow. And this is where the second layer of revelation lies. It's not just about seeing others clearly. It's also about seeing yourself. When you notice how someone treats the powerless, you're not just learning about them. You're learning what kind of behavior you have unconsciously tolerated, excused, or even imitated. Every act of cruelty that unsettles you points toward a part of your soul that still longs for understanding. Transformation, realization. So here's the paradox Jung uncovered. If you want to see someone's true character, watch how they treat those below them. But if you want to see your own character, watch how you treat those who can't repay you. The unconscious reveals itself in small, ordinary acts. A sigh, a glance, a tone of voice. It's in the moment you snap at your sibling, ignore the stranger asking for help, or dismiss someone's pain because it's inconvenient. Each of those moments whispers a truth about your soul. Not to shame you, but to invite you into awareness. Because Jung didn't believe in perfection. He believed in integration. He didn't ask you to erase your darkness. He asked you to know it. When you can see the part of you that once wanted to dominate, to belittle, to control, and you can meet it with compassion instead of denial, that's when you evolve. That's when your unconscious becomes conscious. And that's when power loses its ability to corrupt you. Cinematic reflection, closing quote. So the next time you want to understand someone's true nature, don't listen to what they say. Watch what they do when no one is watching. Watch how they behave when they hold the smallest piece of power. Because it's easy to be kind when kindness costs nothing. It's only when kindness costs you something, your time, your ego, your comfort, that it becomes real. Jung's message wasn't just psychological, it was spiritual. He was telling us, you become what you do to others. The best political, social, and spiritual work we can do, Jung said, is to withdraw the projection of our shadow onto others. Treating the powerless with dignity isn't about morality, it's about self-knowledge. Because how you treat others is how you treat yourself, the parts of you you've forgotten, rejected, or ignored. In the mirror of powerlessness, you meet your own humanity again. There's a strange moment that comes for every human being. A moment when everything you once depended on begins to fall apart. The plans don't work, the people you trusted walk away, and the world suddenly feels cold and unrecognizable. In that moment, something deep inside you cracks open, and what steps through that crack is the truth. Not the version of you that smiles for others, but the one that trembles in silence when no one is watching. Carl Jung believed that it's in those moments of adversity that a person's real nature is revealed. Not when they're successful, admired, or surrounded by comfort, but when the universe says no. That's when the ego drops its mask, and you finally see what lies beneath. When life takes everything away, some people collapse. They become bitter, angry, resentful. They start blaming everyone and everything, as if pain itself is unfair. But others somehow transform. They suffer, but they don't curse life. They endure, and through that endurance, something sacred begins to awaken. Pain doesn't destroy them, it purifies them. That's what Jung called the individuation process, the painful but necessary path toward becoming whole. Adversity strips away the illusions, the false identities, the attachments, the masks we wear to feel important. It forces us to confront the shadow within, all those fears, insecurities, and hidden weaknesses we tried to hide from others and from ourselves. When you can no longer control the world around you, you are left face to face with the only thing you can ever control, your response. That's where real strength begins. Viktor Frankl, who survived the horrors of Auschwitz, once said, "When we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves." Jung's entire philosophy echoes that truth. Life doesn't test your power, it tests your presence. When everything external is stripped away, who are you then? You see, most people mistake happiness for peace. They think that peace means everything is going right. But Jung knew that true peace is born when everything is falling apart, and you remain calm anyway. The people who find that kind of stillness aren't superhuman. They're just deeply conscious. They've accepted the shadow. They've looked at their own darkness without running from it. Because when you face your shadow, something miraculous happens. You stop judging others for their flaws because you've seen your own. You stop taking pain personally because you understand that suffering is part of life's design. And slowly, the chaos that once terrified you becomes the fire that forges you. Every storm that enters your life carries a mirror. It doesn't come to destroy you. It comes to show you what still lives within you. Your fear, your anger, your dependency, your ego. Pain in Jung's eyes was never an enemy. It was the ultimate teacher. When you begin to see adversity this way, everything changes. Suddenly, loss isn't failure. It's revelation. Failure isn't humiliation, it's refinement. And every disappointment is a spiritual exercise in seeing what you truly value. Suffering stops being meaningless because you start to see what it's trying to awaken in you. Think about the people you admire the most. The calm ones, the wise ones, the quiet ones who seem untouched by chaos. Do you think they were always like that? No. They were broken once too. But instead of turning bitter, they turned inward. They didn't let pain close their heart. They let it open their awareness. They didn't curse their darkness. They learned to walk through it. Adversity doesn't build character. It reveals it. When you take away someone's comfort, you see what's left. When you strip them of recognition and control, you discover their truth. Some people become cruel when they lose power. Others become kind. Some grow cold. Others learn compassion. Jung understood this paradox, that what breaks most people can also awaken the rarest form of strength, conscious humility. The shadow, when embraced, turns into wisdom. The suffering, when understood, turns into freedom. Because when you've walked through your own darkness, no one else's darkness can scare you anymore. You begin to see people differently. You stop reacting to their cruelty because you know it comes from their pain. You stop chasing approval because you know peace isn't found in others. It's found in self-awareness. That's what Jung meant when he said, "I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become." Adversity gives you that choice. You can stay trapped in anger, or you can let pain carve you into something deeper, wiser, and freer. The ones who do that, who can look at pain and say, "I will not let this harden my heart," are the ones who walk through life untouchable. So, when you want to see someone's true character, don't look at how they shine when things are easy. Look at how they carry themselves when life grows heavy. Look at how they treat others when they're hurting. Watch what they do when the world turns its back. That's when their soul speaks. Jung believed that we spend half our lives running from the very thing meant to set us free, our own suffering. But if we stop running, if we simply turn and face it, everything begins to make sense. Adversity doesn't come to destroy who you are. It comes to destroy who you are not. Because in the end, life's greatest lesson is simple. You cannot avoid pain, but you can choose what it turns you into. And that choice, made again and again, is what shapes your destiny. So the next time you're hurt, betrayed, or abandoned, remember Jung's wisdom. This isn't punishment, it's purification. You're not breaking down, you're breaking open. You're not being destroyed, you're being revealed. And what's revealed in those moments when the ego falls silent and the heart learns to endure is the purest version of your being, the one that nothing and no one can disturb. There comes a moment in life when you stop asking why things happen to you and start asking what they're trying to show you. That's the point where growth begins. Carl Jung believed that every experience, every relationship, every hardship is a mirror reflecting something hidden within us. The outer world, he said, is not separate from the inner one. It is a projection of it. What disturbs you in others is often what you've refused to face in yourself. That's why he said, everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. The true test of character, Jung believed, is not found in what you say, but in how you see. When you encounter pain, cruelty, or chaos, do you see an enemy or do you see a reflection? Because life has a strange way of holding up mirrors when we least expect it. Every unfair situation, every unkind person, every moment of rejection, it's all revealing something deeper. We think we're reacting to life, but in truth we're reacting to ourselves. When someone disrespects you, your anger doesn't come from the act alone. It comes from an old wound inside you that was never healed. When someone rejects you, your sadness doesn't come from the rejection. It comes from your hidden fear of being unworthy. Jung's psychology was never about blaming others or yourself. It was about awareness, the courage to look within and say, what is this moment trying to teach me about me? That's why the people who grow the most are not the ones who avoid pain, but the ones who study it. They pay attention. They don't escape every discomfort. They observe it. They use every experience, pleasant or painful, as a mirror to see themselves more clearly. And the more clearly they see, the freer they become. Because freedom isn't doing whatever you want. It's understanding why you want it. It's no longer being controlled by unconscious emotions, hidden fears, or unexamined pain. It's choosing your response instead of reacting blindly. And that's where Jung's idea of the mirror of the soul becomes powerful. He believed that the world outside us is always giving feedback about what lives inside us. The situations that anger you, the people that frustrate you, the things that make you jealous. They are messages. They're not obstacles. They're opportunities. Opportunities to make the unconscious conscious, to pull the hidden shadow into the light. That's what individuation is all about. Becoming whole, not by chasing perfection, but by embracing all that you are. Your light and your shadow, your peace and your chaos, your power and your pain. Jung taught that true strength doesn't come from denying your darkness, but from understanding it. When you see your anger without becoming it, when you acknowledge your fear without running from it, when you recognize your jealousy without acting on it, you are no longer its slave. You've begun to master yourself. And when you reach that level of awareness, something profound happens. Life no longer controls you. People no longer trigger you. Chaos no longer consumes you. Because you finally realize that everything happening around you is a reflection of what's happening within you. The outer world loses its grip the moment you understand your inner one. That's why Jung believed that peace doesn't come from controlling life. It comes from understanding yourself. The moment you stop trying to fix the world and start seeing it as your mirror, you begin to change from the inside out. Look at how someone responds when they are wronged, misunderstood, or humiliated. Look at how they act when no one is watching. That's their mirror. That's their truth. People can fake kindness when life is easy. But when life is hard, masks fall. The humble stay kind. The wise stay silent. The compassionate stay human. And that is what Jung wanted us to see. That peace is not born from perfection, but from wholeness. The most peaceful people are not those who've lived easy lives. They're the ones who've walked through hell, made peace with their shadow, and came back carrying light. They know their own darkness so deeply that nothing in the world can scare them anymore. They don't react. They reflect. They don't blame. They understand. They don't run from pain. They listen to it. That's the secret to seeing someone's true character. Not in how they act when they're praised, but in how they respond when they're tested. Not in how they behave when the spotlight is on, but in how they treat others when no one's watching. So the next time life feels unfair, or someone hurts you, pause. Don't rush to react. Don't fall into anger or self-pity. Just ask one quiet question. What is this showing me about myself? Because in that moment, the world has become your teacher. You're not a victim anymore. You're a student. Every wound becomes a classroom. Every heartbreak becomes a doorway. And every experience, no matter how painful, becomes a mirror reflecting the parts of you that are ready to awaken. That's the beauty of Jung's psychology. It's not about escaping suffering, but transforming it into wisdom. It's about realizing that the shadow isn't your enemy, it's your guide. And once you make peace with your shadow, you stop being disturbed by others. You stop being consumed by what people say or do. Because you've already met the part of yourself that once needed their validation, and you've outgrown it. That's what real power looks like. Not control, not dominance, not perfection, but peace. A peace so deep that the world can no longer shake it. In the end, Jung's message is timeless. The world is your mirror. Look closely, and you will see not just others, but yourself, your fears, your longings, your strengths, and your truth. And once you truly see, you awaken. Because the moment you stop looking outside for who you are and start looking within, you become untouchable. Or as Jung himself said, who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakens.